Sapara Yashara, the book of Jasher, that is of upright or righteousness. Joshua 10:13. Is this not written in the book of Jasher? 2 Samuel 1:18. See, it is written in the book of Jasher. This reading will be compared to the books of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, and Judges. Hebrew words and names will be used for this reading. Chapter 1. Adama is created. First sin, birth of Kayana and Habala. Kayana kills Habala. Birth of Kayana children. Verse 1. And Allahayama said, Make Adama in our image after our likeness, and Allahayama created Adama in his own image. Genesis 1:26. Verse 2. And Allahayama formed Adama from the ground, and he blew into his nostrils the breath of life. And Adama became a living being endowed with speech. Genesis 2:7. Verse 3. And Yahweh said, It is not good for Adam to be alone. I will make unto him a helper. Genesis 2:18. Verse 4. And Yahweh caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adama, and he slept, and he took away one of his ribs, and he built flesh upon it, and formed it, and brought it to Adama. And Adama awoke from his sleep, and behold, a woman was standing before him. Genesis 2:22. Verse 5. And he said, This is a bone of my bones, and it shall be called woman, for this has been taken from Adama. And Adama awoke, called her name Chawaha, for she was the mother of all living. Genesis 2:23 and 3:20. Verse 6. And Allahayama blessed them and called their names Adama and Chawaha in the day he created them. And Yahweh Allahayama said, Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Genesis 1:28. Verse 7. And Yahweh Allahayama took Adama and his wife, and he placed them in the garden of Edana to dress it and to keep it. And he commanded them and said unto them, From every tree of the garden you may eat, but from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat thereof you shall surely die. Genesis 2:15, 2:16, 2:17, and 2:18. Verse 8. And when Allahayama had blessed and commanded them, he went from them, and Adama and his wife dwelt in the garden according to the command which Yahweh had commanded them. Verse 9. And the serpent which Allahayama had created with them in the earth came to them to incite them to transgress the command of Allahayama, which he had commanded them. Genesis 3:1. Verse 10. And the serpent enticed and persuaded the woman to eat from the tree of knowledge, and the woman hearkened to the voice of the serpent, and she transgressed the word of Allahayama, and took from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and she ate, and she took from it and gave also to her husband, and he ate. Genesis 3:1 through 3:6. Verse 11. And Adama and his wife transgressed the command of Allahayama, which he commanded them, and Allahayama knew it, and his anger was kindled against them, and he cursed them. Verse 12. And Yahweh Allahayama drove them that day from the garden of Edana. And Adama knew his wife Chawaha, and she bore 2 sons and 3 daughters. Genesis 3:24 and 5:4. Verse 13. And she called the name of the firstborn Kayan, saying, I have obtained a man from Yahweh. And the name of the other she called Habala, for she said, In vanity we came into the earth, and in vanity we shall be taken from it. Verse 14. And the boys grew up, and their father gave them a possession in the land. And Kayana was a tiller of the ground, and Habala a keeper of sheep. Genesis 4:2. Verse 15. And it was at the expiration of a few years that they brought an approximating offering to Yahweh. And Kayana brought from the fruit of the ground, and Habala brought from the firstlings of his flock from the fat thereof. And Allahayama turned and inclined to Habala and his offering, and fire came down from Yahweh from heaven and consumed it. Genesis 4:3 through 4:5. Verse 16. And unto Kayana and his offering Yahweh did not turn, and he did not incline to it, for he had brought from the inferior fruit of the ground before Yahweh. And Kayana was jealous against his brother Habala on account of this, and sought a pretext to slay him. Genesis 4:5 through 8. Verse 17. And in some time after, Kayana and Habala his brother went one day into the field to do their work. And they were both in the field, Kayana tilling and plowing his ground, and Habala feeding his flock. And the flock passed that part, which Kayana had plowed in the ground, and it sorely grieved Kayana on this account. Verse 18. And Kayana approached his brother Habala in anger, and he said unto him, What is there between me and thee, that thou come to dwell and bring thy flock to feed in my land? Verse 19. And Habala answered his brother Kayana and said unto him, What is there between me and thee, that thou shalt eat the flesh of my flock and clothe thyself with their wool? Verse 20. And now therefore put off the wool of my sheep with which thou hast clothed thyself, and recompense me for their fruit and flesh which thou hast eaten. And when thou shalt have done this, I will then go from thy land as thou hast said. Verse 21. And Kayana said to his brother Habala, Surely if I slay thee this day, who will require thy blood from me? Verse 22. And Habala answered Kayana, saying, Surely Ahlahayama, who has made us in the earth, he will avenge my cause, and he will require my blood from thee should thou slay me. For Yahweh is the judge and arbiter, and it is he who will requite man according to his evil, and the wicked man according to the wickedness that he may do upon earth. Verse 23. And now if thou shouldst slay me here, surely Ahlahayama knows thy secret views, and will judge thee for the evil which thou didst declare to do unto me this day. Verse 24. And when Kayana heard the words which Habala his brother had spoken, behold, the anger of Kayana was kindled against his brother Habala for declaring this thing. Verse 25. And Kayana hastened and rose up, and took the iron part of his plowing instrument, with which he suddenly smote his brother, and he slew him. And Kayana spilt the blood of his Habala upon the earth, and the blood of Habala steamed upon the earth before the flock. Genesis 4:8. Verse 26. And after this Kayana repented, having slain his brother, and he was sadly grieved, and he wept over him, and it vexed him exceedingly. Verse 27. And Kayana rose up and dug a hole in the field, wherein he put his brother's body, and he turned the dust over it. Verse 28. And Yahweh knew what Kayana had done to his brother. And Yahweh appeared to Kayana and said unto him, Where is Habala thy brother that was with thee? Genesis 4:9. Verse 29. And Kayana dissembled and said, I do not know, am I my brother's keeper? And Yahweh said unto him, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood cries unto me from the ground where thou hast slain him. Genesis 4:9 through 10. Verse 30. For thou hast slain thy brother, and hast dissembled before me, and didst imagine in thy heart that I saw thee not, nor knew all thy actions. Verse 31. But thou didst this thing, and didst slay thy brother for naught, and because he spoke rightly to thee. And now therefore, cursed be thou from the ground which opened its mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand, and wherein thou didst bury him. Verse 32. And it shall be, when thou shalt till it, it shall no more give thee its strength as in the beginning, for thorns and thistles shall the ground produce, and thou shalt be moving and wandering in the earth until the day of thy death. Genesis 4:12. Verse 33. And at the time Kayana went out from the presence of Yahweh, from the place where he was, and he went moving and wandering in the land toward the east of Eden, he and all belonging to him. Genesis 4:16. Verse 34. And Kayana knew his wife in those days, and she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name Chanawaka, saying, In that time Yahweh began to give him rest and quiet in the earth. Genesis 4:17. Verse 35. And at that time Kayana also began to build a city, and he built the city, and he called the name of the city Chanawaka, according to the name of his son. For in those days Yahweh had given him rest upon the earth, and he did not move about and wander as in the beginning. Genesis 4:17. Verse 36. And Yashara was born to Chanawaka, and Yashara fathered Machawawahla, and Machawawahla fathered Mathawashahla. Genesis 4:18.
Although the first chapter of the book of Yashara, Jasher, includes details that aren't mentioned in the book of Genesis, it doesn't go against what Genesis chapter 1 through 4 say. In verse 12 of this chapter, we learn that Chawaha, or Chawa Eve, gave birth to 2 sons and 3 daughters. This chapter also gives us more information about the relationship between Kayana, Cain, and Habala, Abel, and about Kayana's interaction with Yahweh. Isn't it a blessing to see how the Most High has given us even more proof that the Scriptures are true? I thank you, Abba, Father, I thank you again and again. Ahba, set apart one, by your will, all things are done. The blind now see, the path made clear, the deaf now hear your voice draw near. By pure power and compassion wide, you lift the veil, you break all pride. In awe I stand, my heart made still, all by your might, all by your will.